Hey everyone, welcome to another high-impact analysis. Today we're going to delve into the eye of the storm of a battle currently raging in the corridors of Washington, a silent war of decrees that could be more dangerous to global stability than any ballistic missile. You've probably heard that the United States Congress passed a bulletproof law to prevent any president from withdrawing the country from NATO without Senate approval. But what nobody is telling you is that behind the scenes at the Department of Justice, there's a constitutional interpretation that turns this law into a mere piece of paper. We're talking about Section 1250A of the National Defense Authorization Act, the shield that Congress erected to protect the Atlantic Alliance. But is this shield truly unbreakable, or are we facing an illusion of legal security that could collapse on the first day of a new diplomatic crisis? To understand the magnitude of the problem, we need to look at what legal scholars call the exclusive authority of the executive. While the legislature attempts to tie the hands of the commander-in-chief, historical precedents show that when it comes to canceling international treaties, the Oval Office plays cards that Congress does not possess. Imagine the scenario. The president decides that NATO no longer serves American interests and notifies the withdrawal. Congress points to the 2024 law and says, "You can't." What happens next is not a polite debate, but an unprecedented constitutional crisis that would reach the Supreme Court in record time. And this is where the analysis becomes grim. The current composition of the Supreme Court has shown a consistent tendency to expand, not restrict, presidential powers on national security issues. If the court decides that treaty termination is an inherent prerogative of the office of president, NATO ceases to exist as we know it in a matter of months. But the real breach isn't just the formal withdrawal. There's a much more subtle and devastating tactic we call inertia-based deflation. A president doesn't need to tear up the treaty to kill NATO. He can simply stop sending troops to joint exercises, reduce intelligence sharing, and, most seriously, make it clear that he doesn't intend to honor Article 5 in the event of an attack on an ally. If the promise of American protection is called into question by a single official statement, the alliance dies instantly, even if the paper remains signed. It's the collapse of deterrence. Without the certainty of an American response, Europe becomes an open chessboard for the ambitions of rival powers, and Congress would stand by, hands tied, while the greatest defense structure in history transforms into an empty shell, devoid of real power. The climax of this legal dispute lies in the fact that, in practice, the power of war belongs to whoever holds the key to the arsenals. If the executive decides that resources for bases in Europe will be reallocated to other priorities, the military impact is immediate, regardless of any legislation that formally prohibits the withdrawal. We're living in a moment where the interpretation of a single sentence in the Constitution could be worth more than decades of transatlantic cooperation. The question is no longer whether the law exists, but whether it has teeth to bite a president determined to change the course of history. If the authority of the commander-in-chief prevails over the will of the legislature, we will enter an era of uncertainty, where global alliances will be as temporary as the mandate of those who lead them. What's at stake here is the very definition of who controls American foreign policy. NATO has been the pillar of European peace since 1949, but this pillar now rests on nebulous and unstable legal ground. The battle over Section 1250A is the dress rehearsal for a confrontation that will change the world. And I want to know from you, do you believe that Congress should have ultimate power over military alliances? Or should the president, as commander-in-chief, have complete freedom to decide where American soldiers should or should not fight? Leave your opinion in the comments, because this debate is at the heart of national security for the coming years. If you want to continue receiving these analyses that unveil what's hidden behind the headlines, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications. Your presence here is fundamental to keeping this Situation Room active and informed. Until the next update.